We're going to Sheffield today, John. See Andrew Mays at the Royal Hallamshire Hospital.
John Spencer has a most unusual problem. He can vividly remember his boyhood during the Second World War, but after that, everything is a virtual blank. He can barely remember what happened to him 30 seconds ago. His amnesia is catastrophic, and he depends on his wife, Audrey, for almost everything.
Don't mind John talking to you, do you?
Not at all,
No.
not at all.
We used to go sailing on the Norfolk Broads. But if the wind's against you, like that,
Yes.
you tack like that, that's at 45 degrees. That's a 90-degree angle.
It's 40 years since John last sailed on the Norfolk Broads, but to him, it's as if it was yesterday.
Have you ever been on the Norfolk Broads? I'll take you. But it's a wonderful.
It's blonde ladies he fancies taking, I think.
I don't think
We're blue eyes.
I'm great. Who did you meet on the train? You remember anybody?
No.
You had a think? Yeah?
No.
No, well, we met a blonde lady.
Blonde lady.
Yes, and you told her all about the Norfolk Broads.
Did I?
And then you invited her to come with you on the Norfolk Broads. And she said she would.
Did she really?
You haven't asked me yet.
Well, you always come.
No, I've never ever been on the Norfolk Broads, no. So I think you'll have to take me as well.
I'll take you, certainly. Have you been on the Norfolk Broads? I'll take the lot of you.
John Spencer used to be a maths teacher. Then, 17 years ago, he sustained a cerebral hemorrhage that nearly killed him. The brain damage he suffered means that he can't retain any new information for more than half a minute. Today, John and Audrey have come to the Royal Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield to see one of the country's leading amnesia specialists.
And then we're going up to end floor.
Yeah.
And when we get there, we'll see Jenny.
Hi, John.
Hello, I recognise you.
You recognise me, do you?
Yeah.
Ah, well, you won't recognise...
Professor Andrew Mays and his colleague, neuropsychologist Paul Brox, are conducting a national research project on acute memory loss.
Yes.
Does that
sailing
ring true?
yachts. Yeah.
Yes.
I like chocolate
like
biscuits.
chocolate biscuits, yeah. So you still like them?
Still sailing on the Norfolk Broads.
Sailing on the Norfolk Broads?
Have you ever been sailing?
I've not been sailing on the Norfolk
I'll
Broads,
take
no.
you.
So you brought your family with you?
Yes. This is my youngest daughter.
Yes, I don't think we've met, have we? No, but...
I'm not sure.
I remember Audrey.
And I'm your eldest.
The eldest.
Yes,
21.
that's right.
Where we are now, I've no idea.
If I said it was Sheffield, would that surprise you?
It would shock me. I don't know we're anywhere near Sheffield.
Well, you came across today, especially to see us in Sheffield.
Oh, we're in Sheffield now.
That's right, yeah.
Can't remember coming.
Any idea how you did come?
No.
You actually came by train?
Came by train.
Yes. Does that bring back any memories, any feel for...
No.
I mean, a lot of train journeys might still feel the same.
No.
But no
memory at all.
Because I know what it must feel like not to be confident about things. It presumably makes you feel insecure.
Yes, it does.
So which city are we in now then?
Staley Bridge?
No.
No.
If you had to guess between Leeds, Manchester, Sheffield or Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, Sheffield, Newcastle, which of those would it be?
Just say them again, slowly.
Leeds,
Leeds,
Manchester,
Manchester,
Sheffield,
Sheffield,
Newcastle.
Newcastle. I've no idea. Surprising, isn't it? You used to have a good memory.
You got any questions you want to ask us, Sean?
I can't think of the question. That's the sad part. I used to teach maths and physics.
So you think that difficulty of asking questions relates to not being able to remember
That's right,
what you
yeah.
might want to ask?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I couldn't tell you where I am now.
No.
Staley Bridge. And we're in...
It's not Staley Bridge.
No, it's not Staley Bridge.
No. South Yorkshire city that begins SH. It sounds something.
Sheffield.
Does that sound right?
No,
Doesn't feel like a memory.
no.
Does it surprise you that you're in Sheffield? Are you surprised to find that out?
Yes, I am surprised if we are in Sheffield, are we?
Well,
We're in Sheffield, are we?
Yes.
Dad can't be left unattended for any length of time. He could just walk out of the front door and wander off, and he may find his way back, but we're never that sure that he would. He may just keep on walking. So he's always got to have somebody.
He never did
with
it.
him.
You see, in the early days, he did get out once or twice, didn't he? And he was never coming back, was he, when we found him?
No. I remember once when we were at our caravan in Wales, Mum and I had just been having a quiet chat and we didn't really notice what Dad was doing, and we hadn't been chatting very long, and all of a sudden we looked around, where's Dad? He's disappeared.
I remember that.
Big panic. So we leapt in the car, and the only thing we could think was that he may have headed towards the nearest town, which was Criccieth, but it was a good few miles down the road. Anyway, off we sat in the car, and sure enough, there he was, walking along the seafront. Oh, hello, he says. Fancy meeting you here.
I remember my own family, clearly.
Yes.
Got 3 daughters,
Yes.
Jenny, Judy and Jill.
Yes.
It's clear.
Yes. How much can you tell me about them?
3 beautiful daughters.
Yes,
That's the main thing.
Right so far, but what else? How many of them married?
They're all married.
They're all married.
All married,
Yes.
certainly.
Can you
Yeah.
say for how long they've been married?
No. No idea.
And have any of them got children?
I think they've all got a child. 1 child.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, no.
Let's check.
No children, no grandchildren
Got
at
no
all.
children. No.
maybe one reason that he seems to sometimes invent members of the family like grandchildren is that it's part of his general coping strategy. It's a part of his struggle to make sense of where he is, and part of his struggle to make sense of interacting with other people. It's quite plausible. He's a man of 64 with 3 daughters. It's quite likely that he would have grandchildren. So he's trying to make sense of his world, I think.
I used to go sailing on the Norfolk Broads. Have you ever been sailing? I'll take you sailing someday.
Do you think you could still do that? That's
Yes, I
quite a
could
long
sail.
time ago,
I could
wasn't it?
sail a yacht.
Yeah.
You tack across like that. And you come to a bridge, you take your jib down, you take your mainsail down, and you lower the huge mast into a piece of wood like that. And you take a long pole that goes from about that corner to that corner, and you push the boat under the bridge. I used to go sailing on the Norfolk Broads. Have you ever been sailing on the Norfolk Broads? Take you.
The reason he does repeat is that he has very few memories, so he naturally rehearses them and repeats them over and over again. I think what happens in any social situation is that he feels he has to interact, he has to say something, otherwise he just remains silent in the background. He produces one of the stories that he remembers. He then forgets that he's just produced it. He feels the need to talk again, but the memory is still active. The story is still active, even though he cannot recall having just produced it, and so he spontaneously produces it again.
Every weekday, John is brought to Loxley House. a daycare centre near the Spencers' home in Stalybridge.
OK, John. It's a horrid day today, John.
Very cold, perished.
I don't think you'll be doing any walking outside.
No.
The centre provides a much-needed break for Audrey.
I would think it's just made life so much better for me. You could say bearable, but I wouldn't like to say that really. But John's always gone there. I think he has a walk round and talks to various people. There is an Indian gentleman that had a stroke, and it had affected him physically, and he had to be pushed round in a wheelchair. And apparently John and this Indian gentleman got on really well together, had long conversations, and John used to push him round the daycare centre outside. But one day, his name was Victor, and one day they couldn't find Victor. And John had taken him a walk round and forgotten him. So they all had to go looking for Victor. They found him.
So you're enjoying your dinner?
He's on a diet.
Come on.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Oh, I don't
Your wife was telling me that your clothes were no longer fitting you. I think that was just something to do with all the biscuits that he used to eat. We've had to stop him. We have a cupboard in the kitchen where we keep the biscuits for everyone who has a brew, and John knew where the cupboard was and kept finding his way there, and he would eat pounds and pounds of biscuits, and obviously he was putting on all this weight, so we had to buy a padlock and lock the biscuits away, so John just could not keep going helping himself at any time. He knows exactly where the biscuit cupboard is, yeah. Yeah, you do, don't you?
I used to, I think, just behind that girl over there.
Yes.
The doctors know that the cause of John Spencer's amnesia is the brain scarring brought on by his hemorrhage. But sometimes what causes memory loss is a medical mystery.
Okay. So if you remember...
10 months ago, Stuart Norris was coming up to his A-levels. But then he banged his head on a kitchen unit at home. It was a trivial, everyday incident. Yet in a flash, his memory was gone. The initial brain scans showed no physical damage. All the doctors were baffled.
Every year in the literature, you'll see one or two cases which crop up which produce a bizarre pattern of memory disturbance, which challenge existing theories about how memory and the brain go together. And it may be that Stuart is one such case, that we just really don't know at this point what the problem is in terms of what's gone wrong in terms of his mechanism, the brain mechanisms involved.
When Stuart first lost his memory, I was terrified. It was just horrific. I'd never experienced anything like it before. It was just like having an empty box, and I didn't know whether I had the ability to fill this box again. In the beginning, I just couldn't see any way that this was going to be possible. Missing from the box in the beginning, everything. Stuart did not even know his own name. Gradually, as I got a little bit better and I had help from friends, I realised that we had taught Stuart a lot of what he knew, and if it never came back, we could probably teach him again. Little realising at that point just how much we would actually have to reteach and put back in the box again, I suppose.
You'd ask him if he wanted something to eat, and he would say, well, do I? You would say, well, you like this? I said, well, do I? And all of a sudden you realise that, hang on a minute, there's something wrong here. You know, he shouldn't be saying, do I like pizzas? You know, a kid who's always eating pizzas, he shouldn't be saying, do I like this? Do I like that? Do I like the other? You know, he should know this.
I didn't even know how to get dressed. It was something I just didn't know how to do. After the first week, like I said, that was really bad. I had some idea, and I saw like my brother's wardrobe and mine are in the same room, and he'd come in and get his clothes, you know, for an evening or something. And I saw where he was putting them, but I wasn't entirely sure because I'd never seen anybody actually getting dressed, if you know what I mean. I saw people with clothes on, obviously. The main way I learned how to do it was from children's TV. I have to thank Sesame Street for my ability to be able to get dressed now, which is something that not many people can claim.
What's the Antipodean?
Yeah, Australian, but
Yeah.
I can't think who.
No. Dame Edna Everage.
Stuart's parents are prepared to try everything, including Madame Tussauds, to help their son retrieve his past. In an attempt to kickstart his memory, his mother Jane shows him some once familiar faces.
You don't know it?
Don't know it at
Doesn't
all.
recognise it at all. Do you recognise the
Which
chap
one?
there?
The woman with the moustache?
The one with the moustache.
No. I presume he was, however, connected with the war.
Right. Which side do you think he fought on?
Well, I don't presume he fought.
Why?
Well, since he was along with Winston Churchill, was he not our leader?
Right. Well, I used to watch Stuart very early on when he was really thinking about things, and I noticed there was a pattern. When he thinks and there is something there that he's trying to grasp, he shuts his eyes to concentrate, but on top of that, he actually shuts his eyes and rubs the back of his head, and it's, you know then that the memory is there, but he's actually trying to grasp this memory, and he's concentrating so hard on it to try and grasp it, and inevitably there is a little bit comes back. You prompt and you will get a little bit back. But when he doesn't know, he just sort of is totally dumbstruck. And that's when I know when you can prompt a memory or when you have to tell him. What is he wearing on his arm?
I can't remember what you call it. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
I know if I say it, it's not going to come out.
Try and say it.
It's not swastika.
Yes.
Yeah, swash.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Say it.
Swastika.
That's it, right.
Swash. Not quite how you say it.
Swastika.
Swastika. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is he?
I don't know.
Think about it.
I can't think.
So tell you his first name. Do you think you may be able to get his second name from that?
I don't know. I know I've heard it. I know.
Right.
I mean,
Adolf.
Hitler.
That's right.
Adolf Hitler.
My father dug an air raid shelter in the back garden in 1939.
He dug it, did he?
He dug it, or we dug it out, and we dug it that way. If you drill it straight, it'll fall in.
Yes.
If you dig it like that, it'll fall out.
And so they're outward-facing walls.
So he built a shelter that way.
Yes, yes.
He put corrugated iron on the roof, sloping, and then he put soil on.
On the top?
On the top.
I think to some extent one can describe John as living in an earlier time. This fits with his memory for the past. His memory is clearly much better for the events of his boyhood and early manhood. And this is going from the 40s into the 50s. That I think is a period he remembers quite well. Anything subsequent to that, he can remember very little of. So to that extent, he must be described as someone who lives in the past.
The bombers came, bang, 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 and they'd go, turn off and go home.
You could hear that sound as they approached. Yes.
And it had different engines to the English engines.
Could you tell them apart?
Yes.
By the sound?
By the sound.
So who's the Prime Minister at the moment?
I've no idea. There was Attlee.
Is it still
Neville
a Conservative?
Chamberlain.
When was Neville Chamberlain
Churchill.
Prime Minister? Yes, Churchill was a Prime Minister.
He was Conservative, wasn't he?
When was he Prime Minister?
During the war. Just
Okay,
after the Second
right.
World War, wasn't it?
If I said that the present Prime Minister was John someone or other, who do you think the someone or other would be? John who?
No idea. Clement Attlee, I remember him. He's been dead about 20
but
years.
more recently, does John Major ring
John
any
Major,
bells?
yes, I recognise that. He was a Conservative.
What do you know about him?
I don't know anything about him. And that's the end. That's the fact.
That could be a political comment.
Yes, well, I can't remember what he did.
The problem for the Norris family is that no one can predict what Stuart does and does not remember. A trip to the zoo exposes surprising gaps in the memory of a 17-year-old studying A-level biology.
Have you any idea of what that could be?
Giant cow, no!
Absolutely not. Well,
You don't see many of them.
it's true, there's not many of them walking down the streets of Sheffield.
A car.
No.
It's just make a cigarettes. They
Yeah,
sponsor
that's
a
it.
racing car. Begins with C.
Let me think about it for a minute. It's a camel. Camel, yes.
Back in Sheffield, the hunt for the cause of the problem goes on.
I know your case very well, Stuart, obviously. Andrew knows a bit about it, but doesn't have all the information. Perhaps we could start off with you just giving us an account of how this all started and how things have progressed since.
Realising that I didn't know what was going on was the first thing. Not recognising anything. Not knowing anything's name, but that didn't seem strange to me because I didn't know everybody else knew it.
He was walking about, but he was like sleepwalking.
Yes.
And I had the doctor in, and he said it was a state of altered consciousness that he was in then.
Right.
And
yes.
that was when they did the scan
Yes.
and decided that they couldn't see a bleed, so they sent him home again. And at that point, we had to actually teach him then who he was. I mean, at the end of the first week, he said to me one day when I went into the bedroom, he said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you my mother?" And I said, "Well, so they lead me to believe." And, you know, I mean, it was just so totally strange. And
I've been told it, you see, but I didn't know what that was as a concept. I was actually scheduled to go for a general studies A-level exam at the time, but I missed that because I might have been able to fill in a bit that said name, but I probably would have struggled to address or anything like that because I didn't know it.
Yes.
And not only that, but I couldn't write.
Perhaps I should say at this stage that the problems with general knowledge that you must have been showing at these very, very early stages are extremely severe. If you were to look at an adult, it would be someone with dementia, and not in the early stages, but quite late, who would have this degree of loss of general knowledge. So something like mother and father, I think Paul would agree, they're very basic, common concepts, like table. Once you've lost that, you've probably lost most of your general knowledge.
What about other skills like be able to ride a bike, or can you swim?
I could swim, but
he won't let me throw him in at the deep end. I want to take him and throw him in the deep end of a pool because I'm convinced he will be able to swim. But
of course, her throwing me in a pool is not going to end up in hospital having 20 gallons of water pumped out of her. No, so I'm not all that bothered at the moment. I don't know.
Did you ride a bike before?
No, he doesn't know.
He doesn't know, no.
That's why I waited. I didn't answer that to see how he was going to answer.
Yes, so
yes, he did, but he
not
hasn't since.
I haven't since. Oh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see if you could.
I would.
In the case of Keith Warren, amnesia has taken a unique form. Keith from Harrow used to be a driving instructor. Then in 1991, he banged his head on his garage window just after his third marriage.
It was a wonderful day. It really was a lovely day.
Well, it looks like it was a good wedding. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm asking myself, well, how did I feel? How did I feel? And of course, not being able to get them feelings, you know, it makes watching this a bit of a strange experience.
This was just 3 weeks before the accident. This is how you were.
Right. So this is the me that I'm looking to get back to, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's your goal. That's your target. Keith cannot remember back more than approximately 3 days. He can remember things that happened to the kids, possibly things that happened a week ago. The intimate things concerning the children, like Maxine may have done something a week ago and he might remember it. But the general things, even places where we went last week, it's gone. It's as if it never happened at all. This is the window which had happened. It was one of these windows, probably this one, because you can't really get at that one. Now they open quite wide, but they don't stay open. So you use a stick, something like this one here. You actually use this stick like this to keep it open like that. And I think I wasn't out here, so I didn't actually see what happened. But from what you told me when you came into the kitchen, you must have been walking past here, because it's about the right height. If you come over here, it's about the right height. Yes, it is. And it'll catch you just on the temple there. So you must have been trying to dodge it to go into the garage or something, and you caught this on the side of your head. And you don't remember any of that?
No.
It was about the second or third day that I started realising there was some problem with his memory. We had friends come up to see him, and they'd taken photos of the wedding, and they were showing us these photos. And Keith looked at the photos and he said, we're all dressed up there. Were we going somewhere nice? And I said, it was our wedding. So he said, it looks like we had a good time. I mean, those were his exact words. I can remember them to this day. And I said, it was our wedding 3 weeks ago. So he said, I can't remember it. Straight down like this, shall we?
In the tongue.
We're going to go.
Ready, Max?
In,
down. Yeah. Oh, Maxie gets the first piece.
It's Maxine Warren's birthday. She was born soon after her father's difficulties began. The party's a reminder to the whole family of how long the crisis has gone on.
Yeah.
He went up to his mother's for 5 days. He went up for a Headway conference, and he went up to see his mum for a couple of days and came back. And his sister was over for the evening. And as Keith walked in, we both I got up and kissed him and said hello, and I was talking to him afterwards, and I said, did you recognise me? Did you recognise Millicent, his sister? And he said, I guessed it was you. You were my wife because you were the one that came over and kissed me. But that's the only time that we've ever been apart. And yes, I think he didn't recognise me. When I tell you how I feel, it's backed up with memories of the good times we've had and the bad times we've had, but it's backed up with all those times and all those memories of what our life's been. And that's how I can say to you, I love you. But when you say to me that you love me, I don't know what it's backed up with.
Well, I don't have the memories like what you have. I mean, I can't remember the things you can remember. But I mean, obviously, when I say I love you, I mean it.
See, it's really funny. I mean, we often sit here and have conversations about everything, and they can be really deep-rooted, heartfelt conversations about what you really feel and what you really think. But 3 days later, you've totally forgotten them.
I was just about to say, actually, have we had this conversation before? Because I've got no recollection.
Yeah. And that's hard for me. I don't think, it may be hard for you at the time, but then 4 days on, you've forgotten about it. Yeah? It's like if we have a really bad argument, 4 days on, you've forgotten all about it. I'm still seething. I'm still not talking to you for something or other. And you then wonder why I'm not talking to you.
Well, it's hard for you to understand. It's 10 times harder for me to understand. You know.
Well, I'll just sit here, it's all right.
Go on, no, you're going to go first.
I don't want to. I don't.
I'm not really holding you. I'm not pushing you.
Just
I'm not going to push you.
Take
I'm
your
just
time
making
till
sure
you're
you have
ready
something to
and
lean
think
on.
about it. That's it.
I'm just doing a big push and on you go. Away.
Whoa.
You've got to give it a big push and then pick your leg up. That's it. Away you go. Turn your legs. Turn your feet. Turn your feet. Keep going. Good lad. Off you go. You're just about there.
Stupendous balance.
Yeah, you're all right. No, you're all right. Good job.
He's doing okay though. Yeah, yeah. I felt sure that would come back if he didn't have to think about it. It's harder if he's got to think about things.
Yeah.
He's
pace up now.
Yeah, but he's still not too sure. But everything else is just practice now. Once he practices that, he'll be all right. Yeah. And we'll put Dad in for the London Marathon. And we keep riding round the streets on a bicycle with him. What actually was your problem?
Pedaling
The
it
hardest
and
bit.
then keeping it straight at the same time.
But there was no problem with actually the mechanics of how it worked.
Well, I knew how a bike worked because I'd seen bikes.
Yeah.
I knew how a bike worked. I just
I suspect the
didn't know how a bike worked with me on it.
Stuart had to stop and think about a lot of things that he would have done quite naturally before. I mean, both Stuart and Peter had ridden bicycles, probably hadn't ridden them for 12, 18 months. Both of them had got past their cycling proficiency tests. But yet Stuart was having to think about this, you know, how do I steer it? How do I pedal it? I mean, it was fairly obvious Peter hopped on the bike, a little bit unsure first couple of goes because it was a strange bike, probably a little bit big. But after that, he's speeding down that hill. Stuart's still wobbling and concentrating like mad. That wouldn't have happened before the accident. He'd have been down that hill as fast as Peter. They'd have been racing. And that was the thing. He was having to think about something that should have come naturally.
This lady here,
I don't know anybody else there.
with the pink rose, pink flower.
What, in the bottom corner, you mean?
Yeah, let's just reverse
Most
that.
bizarre of all, it seems Keith Warren can't even recognise some of his own family.
One that's laughing. That's your mum.
That's me mum.
That's your mum.
Is that me mum, though?
That's your mum.
This is Vera.
In stark contrast, John Spencer can recognise friends and relatives from the past.
Twin sister Pat's best friend. This is me, and this is Geoffrey Hawthorne, my best friend. This is Annie.
That's right.
She was my mother's youngest sister.
That's right.
That's right. Auntie Nancy. She was a naturally nasty woman. She had no intelligence, but she knew everything. Whatever you did was wrong. And she was an idiot.
Who's that?
I don't know who that is, Pat.
It's Kirsty.
Kirsty.
Your eldest daughter, Kirsty.
Don't know her, love.
Doctors have been testing Keith Warren for the last 3 years, but they found no evidence of brain damage that could have caused the amnesia. Some have even suggested that he's simulating his condition. A further 5 days of tests in London has culminated in the use of a truth drug, sodium amytal. To the doctor's surprise, even this has been inconclusive.
The doctor didn't actually say she didn't believe you, but she said she couldn't rule out the possibility of you faking it, right? But the thing is, you give up.
makes me feel, Lorraine?
Yeah, I know. But if you give up, love, you give up. And that's it. And you show everybody, yes, I was faking it. Aren't you?
It's not a lot, you know, to ask. I just want
Oh,
to
it
get my
is.
memory back, love.
It is. It's quite a lot to ask because they don't know what's happening.
They keep asking me about some insurance, and I don't know what the hell they're going on about. They keep asking about this.
Yeah.
Something about an insurance. I told them, I said, look, I honestly don't know. I said, you'll have to have a word with Lorraine.
Well,
I
this
said
is it,
to him,
you
I
see.
said,
they
look,
think
I said,
you're
look,
doing
I'm
this
not-
just for the insurance.
I said, I'm not interested about insurance. I've told them and told them so many times.
This is it.
This is it, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Okay. Lorraine, are you sure this is right, love?
What?
This is it. This is it.
The doctors thought you had a psychological block, and they thought by giving you this injection, whatever it was, they would unblock that. And it didn't work.
Well, that's what they said to me.
Right, and it didn't work. And everybody that they've treated with this drug before, I suppose it's something like a truth drug or something like that, it makes you, relaxed. Everyone that they've treated that have had psychological blocks before have got better the next day. They have actually regained their memory.
All of them.
That's the impression that I got. That everybody that they'd treated regained their memory the next day.
But love, I haven't.
I know. That's why.
And what's worrying me
That's
is...
why she said that it's a possibility that you're faking it.
Could I have acted a fraud for a long time, Lorraine?
Well, I don't think so.
Do you think I would do that to you, love?
No, I don't.
I mean, truthfully, all I want to do is be a good husband to you. I just want to be a good father to my children, love. I would very much like to have my memories. I haven't got them. You don't know how much I long to have those memories, man. And I'm sorry I've done this to you. But I can't help it, babe. Honestly.
Come on.
I'm telling you the truth, Lorraine.
Come on.
I don't care what anybody says. They're telling me that,
Don't do this, Kitty. Don't do it. They're not. Nobody's telling you that you're fake. Nobody is telling you that you're a fraud. Right?
I'll tell you what. If they keep on telling me I'm a fake, I'll kill myself, love. Because I will not be accused of something that's not true, Lorraine.
Nobody is calling you a fraud.
How? People, love. What are people going to think of me?
You can't spend 24 hours a day with someone and not pick up on them not telling the truth. It's like when he wakes up in the middle of the night, he'll wake up and he'll not know where he is. Now, I've pretended to be asleep, and he's having a lot of trouble coming to terms with the fact that he's in a house line. After a few minutes, it starts to come back to him, but when he suddenly wakes up, he's quite frightened. Now, he thinks I'm asleep, and you can't. He just couldn't do it. Nobody can do it for 3 years, 24 hours a day.
The Warrens journey north to meet the Sheffield specialists. Keith's amnesia is a puzzling medical phenomenon. Is it caused by brain damage or by psychological disturbance? And if the origin is psychological, is it voluntary or involuntary? The accusations that he's putting it on remain unresolved.
Lorraine just mentioned the baby's birthday party.
Right.
I've been trying to think about that, and I haven't got anything in my head about the baby's birthday party. Although the baby keeps telling me about it.
Yes.
That's it, stand back.
If it's still smoking, it'll come back.
Yeah, if it sparks.
Can you tell me something about John Kennedy?
No, I don't know.
No. Okay.
Sorry.
So you have a problem not only with your personal past, but with public information that comes from the past as well. I mean, that you would have experienced at the time. Everybody knew, for example, about President Kennedy because he was assassinated in the early 1960s. Does that ring any bells for you? Many people can remember what they were doing when President Kennedy was assassinated. You can't remember that.
Just go like that.
The rest of the day is taken up with memory tests. Is there brain damage or not?
George Bush, I think, is the father of a female singer called Kate Bush.
Do you remember the names of any friends or neighbours from the period before you went to school?
No.
This is Cuthbert Cattermole. He's the minister.
I think. Procreati.
Okay.
John F. Kennedy. That's the. Now, we talked about this morning, I know for a fact we did. John F. Kennedy, he is the head of the country and he's alive.
John, would you like to go and get the milk for me? And can you bring it up in the crate?
Yes.
Please.
To stimulate John Spencer's memory, Audrey gives him small tasks around the house.
Do you think he'll bring back, do you think?
I don't know, there's various things, isn't there?
You'll get it spot on today.
Did you find it, John?
Yes. It's on the left. Outside.
Now that is a very big improvement because, up to about 2 years ago, I'd say, you could ask him to go into the next room for something, and before he even got there, he'd forgotten. He'd go to the right place, and then he would come back and say,
Yes.
What did you send me for? That was the first bit of improvement. And as I say, now, this morning, he brought the milk up.
What we get from it is some impression of the pattern of your memory performance and your memory.
The new tests confirm the rare nature of Keith Warren's amnesia. The memory loss is dramatic, but there's no trace of brain damage whatsoever.
But if your pattern of memory impairment isn't like any of the known memory disorders, then it makes it much more likely that it's of psychological origin.
Okay.
Psychological problems, you can get that.
That's why I want to go for that one.
So that is the
We'll look for the psychological one.
that will be the golden one.
Yeah.
Thing we're hoping to see, either that it's.
In defining the problem as psychological, Professor Mays doesn't distinguish between an involuntary block and a deliberate, self-inflicted state.
It could well be the case, and I think many specialists would say this, that the source of the problem is made up. But I think it's extremely difficult to distinguish between simulating and these unconscious psychological causes of memory difficulty, or indeed other psychological causes of memory difficulty. But I mean, if you were to go to your doctor and say you got a headache, probably if you had a neurological examination, it would prove negative. Probably if you had state-of-the-art brain scans, they would prove negative as well. But you still might have a headache. You might not. But it's your word against everybody else's.
After many months of searching, there's been a dramatic breakthrough in the case of Stuart Norris. A SPECT scan of his brain reveals the damage he incurred when he banged his head. Minute but vital changes in the blood flow.
The SPECT scan, which shows patterns of blood flow within the brain, indicates that there is indeed a pattern of abnormality in Stuart's case, particularly on the left side of the brain in an area called the temporo-occipital region, which is towards the back. And there is some suggestion as well that there may be problems in the region of the cerebellum, which is a structure at the back and the base of the brain, which is involved in the control of movements and skill learning. The fact that he seems to have difficulty riding his bike might well be due to damage to the cerebellum, since it is involved in such motor skills.
Nonetheless, Stuart's back at school studying for his A-levels and is determined to get on with his life.
Something else, Stuart. When else do you get mitosis?
When cells in organs die, for repairing them, like in the liver cells and things like that.
Yes, what are they?
This is my wife, nicest one of them all.
For John Spencer, a full recovery is impossible, but his wife Audrey soldiers on and has never given up hope.
We did have a very happy marriage, and he's, to me, has always been a very nice man. And I just think, well, he's been ill. He can't help the way he is. And it doesn't change the fact that you love them. And it's just the fact, as I say, I just think he's a very nice man, and I just carry on and do the best I can for him.
It's Keith Warren's last throw of the dice. In a final attempt to deal with his memory problem, he seeks the help of hypnotherapist Dr. Kenneth Phillips.
I want you now to run a video of the time you had the accident.
You said that you're not going to believe this, but I've just walked into the window. Are you all right?
Yeah. The garage, yes. What's happening?
Telephone. Ringing.
Telephone ringing. Mm-hmm.
Ran out to get the telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And banged my head.
Banged your head, yeah. What's happening now, Keith?
Bad head.
Bad head, yes.
Went to sleep.
Yes.
I have to go in the house.
You have to go in the house.
Ran.
Once hypnotized, Keith reveals details about the accident which he's never mentioned before, such as the phone. He remembers running to answer it. The big question is, once he's out of the trance, will he remember that the phone rang?
Keith, can you just tell me what happened in the accident? Do you remember it now?
Yeah, I banged my head on the garage.
Yeah. Remember doing it?
Door.
Remember the telephone? Telephone ringing. Running to the telephone.
I don't know.
Keith Warren's memory problems are still unresolved.